The sun was setting on Earth, casting a warm golden glow over the quiet suburban neighborhood. Children were playing in their yards, parents were cooking dinner, and everything seemed peaceful. However, in the blink of an eye, this tranquility was shattered. In the heart of the neighborhood, in a modest two-story house, lived Colonel James Jim Carter, a retired super soldier. He was a legend in the military world, having served in numerous interstellar wars and secret missions. Now he spent his days quietly, raising his teenage daughter Emma, alone after his wife's untimely death. Emma was a bright, cheerful girl full of life and curiosity. She excelled in school and loved spending time with her father, listening to his thrilling stories of distant planets and alien encounters. She admired him greatly, though she was unaware of the true extent of his abilities and the horrors he had witnessed. One evening, as Jim was preparing dinner, he heard a loud crash from the living room. He rushed in to find the room in disarray, with shattered glass and overturned furniture. Panic gripped his heart as he realized Emma was nowhere to be seen. His military instincts kicked in, and he scanned the area for any signs of what had happened. Suddenly, the air was filled with a strange, eerie hum, and a blinding light enveloped the room. Before Jim could react, he felt an intense pressure on his chest and was lifted off the ground, paralyzed. He fought to stay conscious, but the force was too strong. The last thing he saw before everything went black was a group of tall, menacing figures with elongated limbs and glowing eyes standing over him. When Jim regained consciousness, he found himself in a dark, metallic room. The air was cold, and the faint hum of machinery filled his ears. He was restrained on a table, with strange devices attached to his body. His mind raced as he tried to make sense of his surroundings. He realized he was aboard an alien spacecraft. His thoughts immediately turned to Emma. He had to find her and ensure she was safe. Summoning all his strength, he began to work on freeing himself from the restraints. The devices holding him were advanced, but his extensive training and experience with alien technology proved invaluable. Within minutes, he had freed himself and was moving stealthily through the corridors of the ship. As he navigated the labyrinthine interior of the vessel, he encountered various alien species, some familiar and others completely unknown. They were heavily armed and patrolling the halls. Jim knew he had to avoid detection at all costs. Engaging in combat would only jeopardize his mission to rescue Emma. Using his advanced combat training and innate sense of strategy, he managed to evade the patrols and reach what appeared to be a central control room. Inside, he found a large holographic display showing various parts of the ship, including holding cells. His heart sank when he saw Emma in one of the cells, surrounded by alien guards. Jim analyzed the layout and formulated a plan. He knew he needed to create a diversion to draw the guards away from Emma's cell. He located the ship's power core and decided to sabotage it, causing a temporary blackout. This would give him the cover he needed to reach Emma. With precision and speed, he made his way to the power core, avoiding detection. Once there, he used his knowledge of alien technology to disrupt the core's systems. Within moments, alarms blared, and the ship was plunged into darkness. Jim moved quickly through the now chaotic corridors, heading straight for Emma's cell. He encountered minimal resistance as the aliens scrambled to address the power failure. When he reached the cell, he saw Emma, terrified but unharmed. "Emma, it's me," he whispered urgently as he unlocked the cell door. Her eyes widened in relief and disbelief. "Dad, I thought I'd never see you again," she cried, hugging him tightly. "We're not out of this yet," he replied, his voice steady and reassuring. "Stay close to me and do exactly as I say." Together, they navigated the darkened ship, avoiding the frantic alien crew. Jim's mind raced as he devised an escape plan. He knew they needed to reach the ship's hangar and find a way off the vessel. As they approached the hangar, the lights flickered back on, and the ship's systems began to stabilize. Jim knew their window of opportunity was closing. They sprinted towards a small shuttle, Jim quickly overriding its security protocols. Just as they were about to board the shuttle, a group of aliens cornered them. Jim pushed Emma behind him, ready to fight. But before the aliens could attack, a loud explosion rocked the ship, throwing them off balance. Jim seized the moment, launching into action. With swift, calculated movements, he took down the aliens one by one, using a combination of hand-to-hand combat and alien weaponry he had picked up along the way. Emma watched in awe as her father, the man she thought she knew, displayed extraordinary skills and strength. "Get in the shuttle now!" Jim shouted as he dispatched the last of the aliens. Emma scrambled into the shuttle, and Jim followed, sealing the hatch behind them. He quickly initiated the launch sequence, and the shuttle roared to life. They blasted out of the hangar and into the vastness of space. Jim set a course for Earth, his mind focused on getting Emma to safety. As they sped away from the alien ship, Emma turned to her father. "Dad, what are you? How did you do all that?" Jim looked at her, his expression softening. "I'm a lot more than just your dad, Emma. There's a lot I haven't told you, but right now, we need to get home. I'll explain everything, I promise." Emma nodded, her mind racing with questions. She sat back in her seat, watching the stars blur past them, and realized that her life would never be the same again. For Jim, this was just the beginning. He knew that the aliens would not give up easily, and that their escape would have far-reaching consequences. But as long as he had Emma by his side, he was ready to face whatever came next. The shuttle sped through the darkness of space, the hum of its engines a constant reminder of the peril they had just escaped. Jim glanced at the controls, ensuring their course was set for Earth. He knew they weren't out of danger yet. The aliens would be tracking them, and their small shuttle was no match for a fully armed spacecraft. Emma sat quietly beside him, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts. She couldn't believe what she had seen. Her father, the man she thought she knew, had just taken down a squad of aliens with ease. Questions burned in her mind, but she sensed this wasn't the time for answers. A sudden beep from the control panel drew Jim's attention. The radar showed a large vessel closing in on them rapidly. His heart sank. The aliens had found them. "Hold on, Emma," Jim said, gripping the controls tighter. "This is going to get rough." He engaged the shuttle's evasive maneuvers, weaving through the stars in an attempt to shake their pursuers. The larger ship fired at them, bright bolts of energy streaking past the shuttle. Jim's hands moved with practiced precision, but he knew they couldn't outrun the larger vessel forever. "We need to find cover," Jim muttered, scanning the surrounding space for anything that could offer them a chance. He spotted a dense asteroid field not far off and adjusted their course. The asteroids would provide some cover and maybe buy them some time. The shuttle plunged into the asteroid field, dodging and weaving between the massive rocks. The alien ship followed, its weapons blazing. The shuttle shuddered as a blast grazed its hull, but Jim kept them on course, using the asteroids as shields. Emma clung to her seat, her eyes wide with fear. She had never been in a situation like this, and the reality of their predicament was sinking in. She looked at her father, his face set in determination, and felt a glimmer of hope. If anyone could get them out of this, it was him. "Dad, what's the plan?" she asked, her voice trembling. Jim didn't take his eyes off the controls. "We need to lose them in the asteroid field. Once we're clear, we'll find a place to hide and figure out our next move." A series of explosions rocked the shuttle as the alien ship intensified its attack. Jim maneuvered the shuttle through a narrow gap between two massive asteroids, causing the alien ship to hesitate. He used the momentary advantage to gain some distance, but the aliens were relentless. Jim realized they needed more than just evasive maneuvers. They needed to fight back. "Emma, I need you to take the controls for a minute," he said, standing up and moving to the back of the shuttle. Emma's eyes widened. "Me? But I don't know how to fly this thing." "You'll do fine," Jim said, his voice calm but firm. "Just keep us moving and avoid the asteroids." He handed her the controls and moved to a storage compartment, pulling out a small, advanced-looking device. He quickly attached it to the shuttle systems and activated it. The device hummed to life, and the shuttle's weapon systems came online. Jim returned to the controls, taking them back from Emma. "Good job, kiddo. Now let's give them something to think about." With the weapons systems active, Jim targeted the asteroids around them, causing massive explosions that sent debris flying toward the alien ship. The aliens were forced to dodge the debris, giving Jim the opening he needed. He pushed the shuttle to its limits, weaving through the remaining asteroids and breaking free of the field. The alien ship was momentarily thrown off course by the debris, giving them a small window of escape. Jim didn't waste any time. He set a course for a nearby moon, hoping to find a place to hide. The shuttle's sensors indicated the moon had caves that could offer them temporary shelter. As they approached the moon, Jim kept an eye on the radar. The alien— "Come on, Emma, we need to move quickly," Jim said, grabbing a few supplies and weapons from the shuttle. Emma followed him out of the shuttle, her heart pounding. They hurried into the cave, Jim using a portable scanner to ensure they weren't being tracked. The cave was dark and cold, but it offered the cover they needed. They moved deeper into the cave, finding a small, concealed alcove. Jim set up a temporary camp, his mind racing with thoughts of their next move. He knew the aliens wouldn't give up easily, and they needed a plan. "Dad, what are we going to do?" Emma asked, her voice breaking the silence. Jim looked at her, his expression serious. "We're going to fight back. But first, we need to figure out why they took you and what they want." Emma nodded, her fear giving way to determination. She trusted her father, and she was ready to face whatever came next. Jim knew they had a long road ahead, but with Emma by his side, he was prepared for the challenge. As they settled in for the night, Jim's thoughts turned to his military training and the secrets he had kept hidden for so long. He knew it was time to reveal the truth to Emma and prepare her for the battle ahead. The aliens had made a grave mistake in targeting his daughter, and they would soon learn just how dangerous a super soldier could be. Jim crouched in the shadows of the cave, his mind racing. He had taught Emma some basic survival skills, but now he needed to prepare her for the reality of their situation. Pulling a small, compact device from his pack, he activated a holographic map of the surrounding area. "Emma, come here," he whispered. "We need to understand where we are and what we're dealing with." Emma joined him, eyes wide with curiosity and concern. The map displayed the moon's terrain, highlighting possible points of interest and enemy activity. "This moon has an old abandoned mining facility," Jim explained. "We can use it as a temporary base and gather supplies. It's risky, but it's our best shot." Emma nodded, absorbing the information. "What do we do if we run into more aliens?" Jim looked at her, his expression stern but gentle. "We stick together, stay quiet, and move quickly. If things get bad, we fight, but only if there's no other option." They packed their gear and made their way deeper into the cave, emerging on the other side into a desolate, rocky landscape. The mining facility was visible in the distance, a cluster of structures partially buried in the dust. As they approached the facility, Jim scanned for signs of life. The place seemed deserted, but he knew better than to trust appearances. They moved silently, using the terrain for cover, and reached the outer perimeter without incident. Inside, the facility was eerily quiet. Abandoned machinery and equipment lay scattered around, covered in a thick layer of dust. Jim led the way, checking each room for threats while Emma stayed close behind. They reached what appeared to be the control center. Jim powered up the systems, and dim lights flickered to life. The consoles displayed old mining data, but Jim quickly accessed the security systems, looking for anything useful. "There's a storage room a few levels down," Jim said, studying the layout. "It might have supplies we can use." They made their way to the storage room, encountering no resistance. Inside, they found food rations, medical supplies, and to Jim's relief, weapons and ammunition. They loaded up, preparing for whatever might come next. Just as they were about to leave, the facility's alarms blared to life. Jim's heart sank. Their presence had been detected. "Emma, we need to move, now!" Jim shouted, grabbing her hand and pulling her towards the exit. They sprinted through the corridors, the sound of approaching footsteps echoing behind them. They burst out of the facility and took cover behind a large rock formation. Jim peeked out and saw a group of alien soldiers searching the area. Their tall, menacing figures and advanced weaponry made it clear they were not to be underestimated. "Stay low and follow me," Jim whispered. They moved stealthily, using the rocky terrain to avoid detection. But as they rounded a corner, they came face to face with a patrol. Jim reacted instantly, firing his weapon and taking down the first two aliens. Emma, armed with a smaller pistol, fired at another, her shot striking true. The remaining aliens regrouped and returned fire, forcing Jim and Emma to take cover. "We need to split up," Jim said urgently. "I'll draw their fire. You circle around and hit them from behind." Emma hesitated, but Jim's firm gaze gave her confidence. She nodded and moved quietly around the rocks, flanking the aliens. Jim stepped out of cover, drawing their attention and exchanging fire. Emma reached a vantage point behind the aliens and took aim. Her shots were precise, and one by one the aliens fell. Within moments, the area was clear. Jim joined her, a proud smile on his face. "You did great, Emma." They continued their escape, making their way back to the cave. Jim knew the aliens would be relentless, but they had gained a brief respite. He needed to find out why Emma was targeted and what the aliens' ultimate goal was. As they settled back in the cave, Jim pulled out a small, encrypted communication device. It was time to contact his old allies and gather the information they needed. The battle was far from over. Jim activated the communication device, its screen flickering to life. He entered a secure code, and a familiar face appeared. Major Alan Stone, his old comrade from the military. "Jim, what the hell is going on?" Alan's voice was a mix of surprise and concern. "Alan, we need intel. We've been targeted by aliens and they took Emma. I need to know why," Jim said urgently. Alan's face darkened. "We've been picking up chatter about a new alien faction. They're hunting something or someone valuable. It might be connected to old super soldier projects. I'll send you the latest data." As the transmission ended, a data packet was received. Jim quickly scanned the information. The aliens, known as the Zarn, were seeking advanced human genetic material, specifically the enhanced genes of super soldiers. "They want you because of me," Jim said, turning to Emma. "They think they can use your DNA to enhance their own soldiers." Emma's eyes widened. "What do we do?" "We find their base and destroy their operation," Jim replied, his voice steely. "But first we need to locate their main facility." Using the intel from Alan, Jim identified a nearby planet where the Zarn had a significant presence. They would have to travel there, infiltrate the base, and gather more information. They left the cave, returning to the shuttle. As they took off, Jim set the coordinates for the alien planet. The trip was tense, with both of them on high alert. Emma practiced with her weapons, determined to be ready for whatever lay ahead. The planet came into view, a desolate world with sprawling alien structures. Jim landed the shuttle in a secluded area, and they proceeded on foot toward the main facility. They approached the compound, using the cover of darkness. Jim disabled the perimeter defenses, and they slipped inside. The interior was a maze of corridors and high-tech labs. They moved cautiously, avoiding patrols and security systems. In one of the labs, they found a central computer. Jim hacked into it, downloading files that detailed the Zarn's experiments and plans. As he worked, Emma kept watch, her senses sharp. "Got it," Jim whispered, pulling the data drive from the terminal. "Let's get out of here." But their presence hadn't gone unnoticed. Alarms blared, and Zarn soldiers converged on their location. Jim and Emma fought their way through the facility, their movements coordinated and efficient. They reached the exit, but a massive Zarn commander blocked their path. Jim engaged the commander, his enhanced strength and combat skills pitted against the alien's brute force. Emma provided cover fire, her shots precise. The battle was fierce, but they managed to overpower the commander and escape the facility. Back on the shuttle, Jim reviewed the data they had retrieved. It contained the location of the Zarn's main base and detailed plans for their genetic experiments. They had the information they needed to strike a decisive blow. "We know where to go," Jim said, his eyes meeting Emma's. "We're going to end this." Emma nodded, her determination matching her father's. They set the coordinates for the Zarn's main base, ready to face the final confrontation and ensure the safety of humanity. Jim and Emma approached the Zarn's main base, a heavily fortified structure on a remote planet. They landed their shuttle in a hidden ravine nearby and made their way to the base's perimeter, moving silently through the dense alien vegetation. Jim used a portable scanner to locate weak points in the base's defenses. "There's a maintenance hatch on the east side. We can slip in undetected," he whispered. They reached the hatch, and Jim quickly bypassed the security system. Inside, they found themselves. Jim piloted the shuttle through space, scanning for any signs of pursuit. The data they had retrieved indicated other Zarn outposts scattered across the galaxy. They needed to stay ahead and strike strategically. "Emma, start analyzing the data for the nearest Zarn outpost," Jim instructed. Emma's fingers flew over the console. "Got it. There's a small communications hub not far from here. If we can take it out, we'll disrupt their coordination." Jim set the course, and they approached the hub stealthily. The structure was less fortified than the main base, but it was still heavily guarded. They landed the shuttle in a hidden alcove and made their way to the hub. Using the element of surprise, they infiltrated the perimeter. Jim took out the guards with swift, silent takedowns, while Emma hacked into the security systems, looping the camera feeds to avoid detection. Inside the control room, they planted charges on the communication equipment. Emma downloaded more data, uncovering information about the Zarn's larger strategy. Just as they were about to leave, an alarm sounded. "Security breach in Sector 3!" a voice boomed over the intercom. Jim cursed under his breath. "We've got to move now!" They raced through the corridors, fighting off waves of Zarn soldiers. Emma's quick thinking and precise aim complemented Jim's brute strength and combat skills. They reached the exit and detonated the charges, crippling the hub's communication capabilities. Back on the shuttle, Jim reviewed the new data. "There's a main supply depot a few systems away. If we hit it, we can cut off their resources." They headed to the depot, repeating their tactics: infiltrate, plant charges, and extract vital information. Each mission brought them closer to understanding the Zarn's ultimate goal and dismantling their operations piece by piece. After several successful raids, Jim and Emma discovered the location of the Zarn's command center. It was heavily fortified and would be their most dangerous mission yet. "We'll need help for this one," Jim said, contacting Alan. "We're going after the command center. Can you rally some old friends?" Alan's face appeared on the screen, grim but determined. "Consider it done. We'll meet you at the rendezvous point." With a small fleet of allies, they launched a coordinated attack on the Zarn command center. The battle was fierce, with heavy casualties on both sides. Jim and Emma fought tirelessly, their bond and determination driving them forward. They breached the command center's defenses and confronted the Zarn leader. The ensuing fight was brutal, but Jim's superior training and Emma's sharp instincts prevailed. With the leader defeated, the Zarn's organization crumbled. In the aftermath, Jim and Emma stood among the ruins of the command center, surrounded by their allies. They had dealt a crippling blow to the Zarn, but the threat wasn't entirely eliminated. "We'll keep fighting," Jim said, looking at Emma. "Together." Emma nodded, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. They had won this battle, but the war for their survival and the safety of humanity continued. Jim and Emma, alongside their allies, regrouped aboard their shuttle. The destruction of the Zarn command center had dealt a significant blow to the enemy, but remnants of the Zarn forces still posed a threat. Jim knew they had to make one final push to ensure the safety of Earth and humanity. Alan's voice crackled over the comms. "We've tracked the remaining Zarn forces to a hidden base in the asteroid belt. It's their last stronghold." Jim nodded. "This ends now. Everyone, prepare for the final assault." The Allied fleet moved through space, approaching the asteroid belt. The Zarn base was concealed within a cluster of massive rocks, making the approach treacherous. Jim piloted the shuttle with precision, weaving through the asteroids while avoiding enemy fire. They reached the base and launched their attack. Explosions lit up the dark expanse as the Allied fleet engaged the Zarn's defenses. Jim and Emma led a strike team into the heart of the base, determined to finish the fight. Inside, they encountered fierce resistance. The Zarn were desperate, their soldiers fighting with ruthless determination. Jim and Emma fought side by side, their movements synchronized. They pressed forward, their resolve unshaken. Reaching the central control room, they found the Zarn's remaining leaders. A fierce battle ensued, but Jim and Emma's training and bond proved stronger. One by one, the Zarn leaders fell until only their commander remained. The commander, a towering figure with cold, calculating eyes, faced them. You think you've won? The Zarn will rise again. Jim stepped forward, his expression steely. Not today. With a final powerful strike, he defeated the commander, ending the Zarn threat once and for all. As the base crumbled around them, Jim and Emma made their escape. They returned to their shuttle and joined the Allied fleet, which was mopping up the remaining Zarn forces. Victory was theirs. Back on Earth, they were hailed as heroes. The world celebrated their triumph, and peace was restored. Jim and Emma finally had a chance to breathe, to reflect on their journey and the battles they had fought. One evening, as they sat together on the porch of their home, Emma turned to Jim. "What happens now, Dad?" Jim smiled, the weight of their ordeal lifting. "We live our lives, Emma. We've earned it, but we stay ready just in case." Emma nodded, a sense of peace settling over her. They had faced incredible odds and emerged victorious. Whatever the future held, they knew they could face it together. And so, as the sun set on a world finally at peace, Jim and Emma looked to the horizon, ready for whatever came next. Together, they were unstoppable.